and salutations. Please allow me to welcome you to Masterpiece Theater. I'm your host, Obba Babatunde, and here on Masterpiece Theater, we celebrate the very best in the spoken word, the written word, and the word expressed in song. In addition, we pay tribute to the talented artists that bring those words to life. Each week here on Masterpiece Theater, I have the pleasure of engaging brilliant artists in one-on-one conversation that explores the great treasures and these writers and actors and singers and dancers possess as we spotlight their artistry that illuminates us all. So I say, a very warm welcome. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Obba Babatunde here, and I'm thrilled to have you all here with me again today. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday and that you're ready for some more inspiring and entertaining information. Today's broadcast deals with one of the most sobering topics likely to ever come up for discussion. It made most recent headlines across the nation with criminal allegations and subsequent convictions of Penn State football coach Jerry Sandusky. We're talking about child sexual abuse. Let me just read you some statistics, if I may. The prevalence of child sexual abuse is difficult to determine because it is often not reported, and experts agree that the incidence is far greater than is reported to the authorities. Check this out. Studies show that 1 in 5 girls and 1 in 20 boys is a victim of child sexual abuse. Studies show that 20% of adult females and 5 to 10% of adult males recall childhood sexual assault or sexual abuse incidents in their life. During a 1-year period in the United States of America, 16% of youth ages 14 to 17 had been sexually victimized. Children are the most vulnerable between the ages of 7 and 13. Now, according to the National Institute of Justice report, 3 out of 4 adolescents who have been sexually assaulted were victimized by someone they knew well. In studio today, I have with me someone who really is familiar with this topic. I'm thrilled to have her in the studio, and I'm going to read you a little bit about my guest today, Raquel Perkins. When it comes to combining zest, commitment, and passion, you will get Raquel Perkins, author of an extraordinary and empowering self-help tool, Piercing the Veil, which is a fantastic book. Perkins stands at the forefront of exhilarating career that will surely impact the lives of thousands. The acclaimed life coach and mentor has worked in a variety of industries, including education, the workforce development, technology, and the real estate business, to name just a few. Her ability to analyze corporate challenges presents a concrete solution to many of those who come to her for their assistance in these areas. In addition to her corporate experience and expertise, this gifted woman of God has served for many years in her local church. She's an ordained minister and an evangelist. She's an executive director of Young Hearts Desires, a non-for-profit organization serving sexually abused teens. She is also the founder of and CEO of A Father's Heart, a non-for-profit organization that started in memory of her late dad. This mother of 2 daughters counsels on the importance of grounded spirituality and self-empowerment, created on God's will, that which is for us in our lives. I'm thrilled that she is here in the studio today. Please allow me to welcome my guest, Raquel Perkins. Raquel, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Obba. Thank you.
Absolutely. You know, I always like to talk about how I came to know my guest, and we have a very wonderful story that suggests how we came. You know, Raquel does go around the country and she speaks, as I spoke to the fact that she's empowers young teens and those who have been sexually abused. And she was doing a conference and she had a flyer And she said, "Listen, I'm doing this conference. Perhaps you can attend." And I looked at the flyer and I saw what it was about, and it was fascinatingly interesting. And I began to talk to her about my feeling about some of these this subject, and maybe some of the panelists, which at that time were predominantly those from the clergy. And I said, "Well, it might be interesting, if you had someone else." And she then said, "Well, listen, how about you? Would you be willing to sit on the panel?" And I said, "Well, I'm not a member of the clergy, but if you'd like me to sit there, I'll be happy to do so." And it was a fascinating and important and healing experience for both myself and those who were there.
Yes.
And, with that, we began this wonderful relationship and started to talk about some of the things that she had experienced. And she said, "Well, Obba, I've written a book." And I began to read the book. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, my mind was blown. I could not believe what I was reading. It began to unfold in front of me, almost like a telepic, and only it was horrific. It was horrifying, and it was really based on the experience of Raquel. This book that I speak of the title of it is "Piercing the Veil." Please tell me what it was that inspired you, Raquel, to write this book.
Well, Obba, as you know my story, I was sexually abused as a teenager, and later I went on to be in a relationship with my abuser. From there, when I got to the age of 21 or 22, I believe, I cut off that relationship and got married, had babies, and my oldest daughter was molested, and that was very devastating to me. And so I was at a point in my life where I wanted to understand, and I wanted to know why. Why is sexual perversion so prevalent in our communities and in our societies? And we're not talking about it, and nobody wants to talk about it, and it's hush-hush. And I say nobody, and I know that's a very general statement, but I can say what in the African-American community that I've known. We brush it under the rug. We don't want to talk about it. And so I wanted to understand. So I went on this journey to understanding this, and this is where the book came from, and I share my story.
Well, listen, since we're talking about the book, and I've got you here in studio, and everybody's interest is piqued, I would like you, if you would, just start with reading a little about the passages from this book so that we can identify. Because here on Masterpiece Theater, we know it is about the word, the spoken word, the written word, the sung word, those who bring those words to life. We have in studio today Raquel Perkins, who has written some words, and she is the artist that brings them to life. So, Raquel, if you would be kind enough, share a passage of the book with us, please.
Okay, I will. I'm going to jump around a little bit. I'll start with the first page. A 13-year-old girl innocence lost. It was the summer of 1983. I was a young, curious, and a lively 13-year-old girl. Our church youth group was settling in at our campground where our annual youth outing was held. I remember that day so vividly in my mind. It was a day filled with nonstop fun. We played games, gone swimming, and barbecued for dinner. When it came time for us to retire, we pulled out our sleeping bags and everyone selected their spots on the campground. I had the honor and the privilege of lying next to my godfather. My first memory of meeting him was when I was a little girl. But even then, I noticed how he had a way with women. I would see him talking to different ladies, and he would gently touch their shoulders or brush their faces with his hand. The women would laugh, and I remember wondering, gosh, what was it that made them respond to him that way? At church, he was just as mesmerizing. On the piano, he sang and preached with such passion and excitement that he drew you in with every word. I often wonder if it really was the Holy Spirit that caused the women to act the way they did, or was it Him that ignited a fire within them that left them no other option but to scream and holler. He spent a lot of time around my family, and I watched in the background as He made the different women dance to the beat of His drum. I didn't understand, but I wanted to. I remember Him smiling at me a few times, but He never really paid much attention to me. I took those smiles and tucked them away in my heart and waited for the day that I too would get my opportunity to feel what those women had felt. Okay, I will continue. Let's see. Months before my 12th birthday, He started to notice me. He started talking to me. Whenever I would see Him, I would get so nervous. Words would literally escape me. He was so beautiful, and whenever He spoke to me, I hung on every word that flowed from His lips. He would come by often to visit my family, and He would call me to sit by Him. He would talk, and I would listen. He had my undivided attention, and He knew it. I never really talked much to Him. I just wanted to be next to Him. It was as if He could read my mind. Somehow He knew what I wanted when I wanted it, even without me asking for it. If I was hungry, He brought me food. If I needed something, He gave me money, all without me saying a word. I struggled within myself to process this strange emotion I was feeling. I had a guy friend who liked me, but he didn't make me feel the way my godfather did. I knew what I was feeling for my godfather had to be wrong, but I couldn't explain it. I couldn't explain why it was wrong, but something inside me told me it was. As time went on, I still longed to be around him, but as I became more involved in school, and my immediate desire for him quickly became a silent crush off in the distance of my mind. Back at the camp, as we all laughed and told stories around the campfire until night fell, I remember my godfather watching me as I talked with the others. Just knowing that he was watching me made me feel special. He didn't say much to me. He just watched me. When it was time for us to go to bed, we prayed and everyone bundled themselves in their sleeping bags. As I laid next to my godfather, I felt at peace. I felt safe. As I laid next to him, I felt good. And all was well with the world. There was nothing more that I wanted. Everything was perfect. I drifted off to sleep. As I slept, I felt a hand touching me on my leg. I thought I was dreaming. I didn't wake up. I just shook my leg, trying to shake off whatever it was that was on me. But I kept feeling the hand rubbing my thigh. I woke up and I looked to my left and saw my sister sleeping soundly. I looked to my right and saw my godfather. He was laying with his back to me. Maybe I was dreaming, I thought to myself. I laid back down and went back to sleep. It was early morning. Right as the sun began to rise, I felt the hand touching me again. This time, it was touching me between my legs. I opened my eyes, but I didn't move. I realized at that moment it was my godfather. He was touching me. I laid there thinking, what should I do? I slid my hand under the cover, and my hand touched his hand. I turned my head to look at him, and he was looking at me. My heart was beating so fast that I could hear the thud of every beat. I felt nervous, but he smiled at me, and somehow he made it all right. I laid there as he touched me. I wonder, what did this mean, and how would this change our relationship? I wanted to ask him, why was he touching me like this? But I was afraid that he would think I was stupid. It was obvious, if he was touching me like this, he wanted me to be his girlfriend. I remember thinking to myself, what were the other women going to do now that he had chosen me as his new girlfriend? That morning, I awoke a new person, no longer a little girl, but a woman and the girlfriend of the most sought-after bachelor. So I thought. As the day went on, he treated me as if nothing ever happened. It was as if he made it a point not to look at me or to come near me. He didn't know how to deal with I didn't know what to deal with his obvious avoidance of me. I remember telling myself, I must be special because he chose me. He had always made me feel special, and now he had actually chosen me out of all the other girls. I knew that I had to keep our secret. I knew that I couldn't tell anyone. But my actions would betray my heart, and my heart would win as I acted out how I felt. I became increasingly jealous of anyone that talked to him. Anyone that he would show any kind of attention to would make me furious. I didn't know how not to show it. As time went on, he started to ignore me. Whenever I wanted to talk to him, he would act like he was busy. That same year during our Christmas time, he had a female friend of ours come visit. We were at my grandmother's dinner table, and he brought her there to meet the family. That night, I remember feeling like I wanted to kill myself. I cried all night long. My mother asked me what was wrong, but I couldn't tell her. Although I was angry and hurt, I couldn't betray my heart. I couldn't betray him. I didn't understand how he would choose me and then discard me. I was hurting from this inside and out and from outside in. And I hated myself.
Wow. Yes, indeed. All those listening, I want to hear from you today. The number is 323-965-1600. That's 323-965-1600. We're talking about a very serious subject today. I want to thank Raquel for being here. I want to open the phones up. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about this subject. Stay tuned.
Hey, are you tired of those same old energy drinks with bad taste? Make a switch to Pitbull Energy Drink with a guaranteed no aftertaste. Pitbull offers more energy with ginseng and vitamins B6 and B12. With a ginger ale lemon lime flavor, Pitbull meets the consumer's demand for better tasting and healthier energy products with a guaranteed no aftertaste. Make a switch to Pitbull Energy Drink. Pitbull offers more energy with ginseng and vitamins B6 and B12. With a ginger ale lemon lime flavor, Pitbull meets the consumer's demand for better tasting and healthier energy products. For more information on Pitbull energy drinks, bars, and mixes, visit their website at hiphopbev.com. That's hiphopbev.com. Online orders available at hiphopbev.com.
right, we're back. We're back here with Raquel Perkins, and we're talking about child sex abuse today, and hopefully opening up some opportunities for healing. Again, the number, if you want to call in, is 323-965-1600. I want to read a few more stats, and then I'm going to get back in touch with our guest here. But just so that we understand, the reason I'm reading these stats is because very often we don't realize the pervasiveness of something until we hear the statistical aspect that surrounds it. The almost 90,000 cases of child sexual abuse reported each year fall short of the actual number. Abuse frequently goes unreported because child victims are afraid to tell anyone what happened, and the legal procedure for validating an episode is difficult. An estimated 25% of girls and 16% of boys experience sexual abuse before they are 18 years old. Statistics for boys are falsely low because of the reporting techniques that are available to report these crimes. Now, of all victims of sexual assault reported to the law enforcement agencies, 67% were under age 18. 34% were under the age of 12. 14% were under the age of 6. Now, despite what children are taught about stranger danger, most child victims are abused by someone they know and trust. Whether the abuser is not a family member, the victim is more often a boy than a girl, and it's interesting, isn't it? Now, this, Raquel, was your experience, as we just heard that.
Yes.
This was someone that was a trusted individual. This was someone that was your godfather.
Yes.
And your pastor.
Yes.
So this is not, but as we see statistically, this is not uncommon.
No, it isn't.
So now, my question then begs, in your own personal experience, what was your reason for not reporting what had happened?
Well, as I shared in the opening of my book, being a young girl and feeling like this man, this beautiful man was a god, you know. And here's the thing: a lot of times people don't understand that these predators, they prey on low self-esteem people, people with low self-esteem, and young girls that have low self-esteem. So at that time, yes, I had an older sister who she was a go-getter, and people loved to be around her, and I was right there with my mother. I didn't have a lot of friends, and so I feel that at him being a predator, he saw that and he took advantage of that and he used that. And that's what a lot of predators do. They will seek out their prey, their victims, understanding their lives and seeing what's missing or what they feel is missing, and they will try to present that to them so they can befriend them.
Exactly. Well, let me just check something. Are there any callers on the line as of yet? I'm going to take a call right now because we've got a lot more to deal with, but I'm going to take a call and because I want to hear from some of those that are listening. Caller, you're on the air. Thank you so much for calling. Welcome to Masterpiece Theater.
Thank you. First, I want to say to Patrice, thank you so much for just being bold enough to share your personal, horrific situation, and I am humbly grateful for you. And I'm thanking the Lord that He's healed you where you could touch her. And as I was listening to just the beginning of your story, something woke up in me. And I'm 55 years old now. But at 9 years old, I was molested by my father, my brother, and my uncle and my neighbor. And when I went to my mom to tell her, she laughed in my face, and then she told me to get out of her house. And she pulled a gun out on me and shot at me, and I ran out the door. And at 55 today, Raquel, you woke up in my mind where I can be free from that now. Because I didn't have anyone to tell. So I want to say thank you, my sister. I am going to buy your book and read it. And I know that it's the beginning of a healing for me today. And I just want to thank the show for having you on, and I'll be praying for you, and I wish you much success. But I have a question, if I may ask you. What, after just hearing me now, what could you say to me to help me as a woman?
Well, what I would say to you, first of all, and what's your name?
My name is Paula Patrice.
Paula. I would tell you right now to walk in your victory, because what has happened to you does not define who you are. You are an awesome, beautiful queen, and we understand that we go through things in our lives, and we cannot allow those things to break us down. We can't allow those things to control our lives. And as long, and I share this with you because I've gone through it, and even now I have gotten to a place where sometimes those memories try to come back and bind me, but I have to talk to myself and let myself know I am free, I am healed. One, because I have dealt with the reality. And so when you start to deal with what has happened, and you have accepted what has happened, and you have forgiven yourself as well as forgiving those who have hurt you, you have such a freedom and a liberation that they no longer have any kind of hold on you. And so that's what I tell you. Walk in your freedom and your victory.
Thank you, Raquel. I'm going to cherish those words, and I thank the Lord for you in Jesus' name, and I'll be praying for you, and I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to get your book. And thank you so much for sharing your story. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and thank you very much for your courage in your journey, and we wish you well, and we pray for you.
Thank you.
Now, Raquel, I know this is some might find this interesting. Now, as one who has been going around and talking and helping others, I know, because of the relationship that we share, and you've been kind enough to share this with me, that it was only recently that, even though you are one who is an advisor, a counselor, it was only recently that you actually found the courage. And I bring this up because very often we see those that are in the position of providing assistance and helping us through things in this journey, and we sometimes don't realize that they too may be fraught with some of the things that you are also fraught with, that just because they are speaking about it from their experience does not mean that they're still dealing with it. So, Raquel, I know that for a fact that it was just recently that you actually decided to go, and because there's no statute.
Right. Well, it is a statute.
There is. So we should talk about that.
Yes.
But you decided for your own liberation to go and report your attacker, the person that victimized you, and there was some resistance from family members, friends, or others who said, "Yeah, but it was so long ago, and you know, I mean, do you really want to bring this up? And do you realize the complications that this could bring about?" And you know, I'd like you to share, just for someone who might be listening, who may be dealing with this, as the young lady that just called in might be dealing with this right now. As you shared with me, the trepidation that you felt when you woke up that morning and you realized, I've got to, something inside you said, I've got to go. And even as you got there, how the other side was fighting inside yourself, the inner conflict. Would you just share that with our listening audience?
Yes, Obba. It was in 2010, actually, after my conference, and after speaking with you and another dear friend, Blair Underwood, and one of my other pastors who was on my panel. You all had shared some things with me, and I thought about it, and I had been dealing with the fact of why hadn't I gone and pressed charges, you know, although it was already out. But that morning when I woke up, I had actually had a conversation the night before with my husband, and I told him that I was going to go and press charges, and he said, "Okay, well, wait for me to get there so I can be there with you." But that morning when I woke up, there was such a push in my spirit. There was such a burning that if I did not go and do it right then and there when I had the courage, that I don't think I would be able to do it. And that was really, it was crazy for me because I didn't understand that feeling. But you know what I did? I got up, I got dressed, and I drove straight to the nearest police station. Now, when I got there, obviously, I was at the wrong one for them to take my statement. But they directed me where I needed to go, and I went, and I pressed charges. And when I got back, I pulled together my family members, all of those who were pertinent to me at the time, and I set them down and I shared with them what I had done. And a few of them were like, wow, you did that. And I said, yes. And there was this feeling, Obba, I can't even explain it. It just liberated me. I felt like the weight of the world had just been lifted off of my shoulders. I felt like I could float. I mean, because this was the last thing that I needed to do. I had already told my story. I had already written it, and people already had their own opinions and their thoughts, and, you know, the bad things, the good things, all of that had already been said. So what was there left for me to do except close this door? I had to go and do that for me.
Yes.
And I did.
Congratulations. I mean, Raquel, when she recounted the story to me, and she said, Obba, I got in the car and I drove there, and then I parked the car, and when I got out, I went to the police station, and I stood in front of the police station, and my knees were knocking.
Yes.
And she said, and I turned around and got ready to leave, but something inside of me said, no, you've got to tell.
Yes.
You've got to tell. And then she went inside, and they asked her, can we help you? And she said no. And she turned to leave again, and that thing inside of her said, you've got to tell. Yeah. You've got to tell. And she turned around and then began to talk about what it was. Yeah. And I said, that was that little girl. That was that little girl that's still in there saying, you got to tell. Now, you know, we talked about the fact that this individual, and this is something that we wanted to bring to fore as well, is that this individual just didn't do this to you. No. It did it to other of your family members.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
To other people, your cousin.
Yes.
Your sister.
Yes.
Then possibly other people. And this person's position in the church.
Yes.
Was over the youth.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, you know, we've got to identify, we very often, relative to how we've been raised, somehow are so trusting of those who we feel are of like minds without really knowing truly who they are, and if in fact they are of a like mind, or what their malady might be. Because I'll tell you what I shared with Raquel after she was kind enough to share this, because she called me and she says, listen, I did it. And her voice was trembling. And she says, and while I feel the weight has been lifted, I feel a new sense of challenge, because I'm wondering what will be the next stage. And I said, well, look, here's what I would respectfully suggest. I said, I would respectfully suggest that if you haven't been getting calls from individuals, that you don't start taking them from them now. Because it's going to be the potential of a couple of things. Oh, are you okay? I heard something about you going and are you all right? Or, are you sure that you really wanted to do this? Do you realize who that man is to so many people? Do you realize what you stand to jeopardize his life and career to be? And I said, what I would like you to do respectfully again is to share with that person, if he should contact you, that you did this because you realize that there is an illness that this person has.
Yes.
And his illness is not affording him to stop. Because who else, other than someone who has an illness, would want to create a harm or a damage to an innocent life? So you say to him, I didn't only do this for me, I did this for you.
Right.
In an effort to help someone help you deal with your illness, since you are incapable of dealing with your own illness, and to stop the abuse at this level right here. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how things have evolved since then, but I have another caller on the line, and I'd like to open the line up to them. Caller, thank you for tuning into Masterpiece Theater. You're on the line.
Well, honey, it's Nydia, and I want to congratulate you for this amazing show that you've put on today. I just wanted to share. Just wanted to for bringing this, and I just want to share. I was abused when I was 4 years old. Didn't tell anybody until I was 11 years old. And it took years of counseling to overcome the molestation. And I just want to thank you for sharing intimately about your experience. Because anytime anybody talks about it, it brings tears to your eyes. And I just really appreciate you, and I hope that you continue on this journey and you touch thousands of lives as you have touched mine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your courage. You know, for something to happen to someone at a tender age of 4 years old, and then have this, and I've spoken to others who have shared with me that they've had experiences that they have actually thought they had forgotten. They had somehow shut themselves down until they ran into, in their adult life, their abuser.
Yeah.
And this feeling in the pit of their stomach came, and then it came back to them. And then they didn't know how to deal with it because now they were adults, you know? I mean, so this is, thank you so much for calling. We got some other calls, and I appreciate your call.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you. Thank you so much, and we pray and we continue to ask for your growth and development and success as you continue to go forward with overcoming this. And you went to therapy, and that is a bravo solution, and we celebrate you for that. Now, Raquel, let me ask you this. What do you say to those who might suggest that, well, wait a minute, this went on, okay, you were abused at an early age, but then you went on to have some sort of sick relationship with this individual. So we might identify the fact that maybe you were really enjoying this. What would you say to those who suggest that when it continues over a period of time, that then the person now is a advocate almost of this thing? And as you mentioned, you said in your mind, it became a relationship. Would you talk a little bit about that?
I will. Well, first of all, it started when you look at abuse and you look at the victim and you look at the abuser, you have to understand that there are certain dynamics. Now, there are some characteristics that are the same across the board, but then there may be some other different dynamics that play a part in each person's role in it. And so when you take a young girl who is struggling with self-esteem and then you get a man, now here, a young girl, a child, okay, and then a grown man.
Yes.
Okay. Look at those two dynamics right there.
Okay.
So now, as a young girl, this man basically molded me, raised me into the woman he wanted me to be. So now there is this, if you will, there's this lock. And we're bound, if you will, together. He has basically set his mark. He has made me his, if you will. And as a child, the mindset, and it took me years to understand this, because I really struggled with that fact that later on I was in a relationship with this man. Why did I do this? I did not tell. People were asking me questions, and I struggled and said this was my fault. I deserved this. I allowed it to go on, and I had to get counseling, but I had to understand that I was a child that was manipulated. Obba, let's be real. 40-year-old women and 40-year-old men have problems in relationships. How do you take a 13-year-old child and then put her in a relationship, and then she grows up in that, and then you expect her to be responsible for her actions and her feelings? That's not real. That is not real. But that is what happened to me.
Because ultimately, this became your first experience.
This was my very first.
This was your entree, your introduction into what sexuality and romance was.
Relationships, all of that.
Very, very, very interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Again, the number is 323-965-1600. I know there's a lot of people that are sitting out there now listening who experience this. And the thing about it is, if you call in and talk about it, it might help you and it might help others to feel strong enough to be able to call in. We're going to come right back after this commercial break with more of Raquel Perkins.
Hey, are you tired of those same old energy drinks with bad taste? Make a switch to Pitbull Energy Drink with a guaranteed no aftertaste. Pitbull offers more energy with ginseng and vitamins B6 and B12. With a ginger ale lemon lime flavor, Pitbull meets the consumer's demand for better tasting and healthier energy products with a guaranteed no aftertaste. Make a switch to Pitbull Energy Drink. Pitbull offers more energy with ginseng and vitamins B6 and B12. With a ginger ale lemon lime flavor, Pitbull meets the consumer's demand for better tasting and healthier energy products. For more information on Pitbull energy drinks, bars, and mixes, visit their website at hiphopbev.com. That's hiphopbev.com. Online orders available at hiphopbev.com.
All right, we're back. Now, listen, I'm going to continue this, and then we're going to have to hear a little bit more from Raquel in terms of her experience with this situation that so many of us are dealing with. I want to deal with this. Most listeners, of course, are aware of the Catholic sex abuse cases that began in 2002 and continued for many years. Where a series of convictions came about following the trials and investigations into the allegations of child sexual abuse crimes committed by Catholic priests and members of the Roman Catholic orders against children. Now, these cases were brought about both in criminal prosecutions and the abusers to civil lawsuits against the churches, dioceses, and parishes. Many of these cases span several decades and are brought forward years after the abuse occurred. As we noticed, that was the circumstance in terms of Raquel's situation. Raquel, now you mentioned that there is a stature. Can you share a little bit about that stature so that we know what we're dealing with in terms of our legal rights and as it pertains to this circumstance?
Yes, I do believe that there is a statute of limitations of 7 years for sexual molestation. I believe it is 7 years as far as the criminal aspect. But civil, there is no statute of limitations. You can sue for civil damages. Yeah, and I learned that when I went to press charges.
Okay, so when you went to press charges, you found out those were the conditions. Yeah. So that now isn't that interesting? Because here we had a caller called in and said that she was 4 years old, which would have meant 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. At 11 years old, she would have had to be able to tell somebody. It wasn't until 11 years old that she was able to even come to terms with the fact that it happened. And so I think we need to look at that in terms of its legal circumstances, situation. And these things are difficult. Yes. In a court of law to prove. I want to get back to our book, and I'd like you to read another segment of the book so that we can continue to identify with the word and how this word is liberating.
Okay. He made me feel as if he was the only friend I had. He made me feel as if he was the only one that I could trust. I would go to church and watch him every Sunday as he preached and prayed for the church members. So many times I wanted to stand up in the middle of the church and scream out what was going on, but I was afraid. I felt like I was the enemy of the church and that he was the friend that everyone loved and trusted. There were times when I would make him mad. He would talk about me in the pulpit and embarrass me in front of the congregation. There were people in the congregation that had speculations about his behavior towards me, but he denied it. He denied any inappropriate behavior with me. I, in turn, rewarded him for his emotional abuse and sexual molestation of me by protecting him. I was a loyal victim. I confirmed that he had never been inappropriate with me. After I turned 18, I started realizing that my godfather had created a young woman that was lonely, isolated, and afraid of her own family. I was afraid that if they found out that they would be angry with me for lying and protecting him. I was afraid that they would talk about me and call me a whore. I had believed the lies that he had told me, and because he was a man of God, I believed that God would not bless me if I caused trouble for him. I was convinced that I had caused my godfather to molest me. I was convinced that because I kept his secret for so long that I deserved to be abused. I believed because I lied to protect him that everything that happened to me was entirely my fault. The love that I thought I felt for him was nothing more than feelings of fear, wrapped up in manipulation, trying to please my abuser so that he would not expose me as the villain. I pretended to be an equal partner in a perverted relationship that was nothing more than statutory rape, rape of the mind, rape of my will, and rape of my youth. I had lived in a world of lies for so long that my mind, body, and my soul was entangled with a false sense of love. My godfather was the first man to show me the vision of love. What he gave me was deception, perversion, and betrayal.
Yes. Beautiful. Okay, now, Raquel, we talked about this since we're talking about it, and I think it's the elephant in the room that nobody's talking about, so we're going to bring it up. Mm-hmm. This is an issue that is, I know that when I came to your seminar, mm-hmm. there you had, as I said, many members of the clergy were mm-hmm. on the panel. Mm-hmm. And there, we've been talking about the female experience, mm-hmm. but this is not relegated to females alone.
Oh, no.
Right? We've got this happening to males and females. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, there were 4 males on the panel, and mm-hmm. 2 of them stood up and spoke to the fact that they had this experience.
Yes.
And there were also several young men in the audience who were brave enough to stand up and say that this had happened to him. Mm-hmm. And there was a large number of those individuals who spoke about the fact that this had happened to them by church practitioners, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. someone in the clergy or someone. Now, my question to you is mm-hmm. that in your work, mm-hmm. have you seen, is this something that is being discussed in the church, in the religious institutions, or is it something that is still sort of this deep, dark secret that is not being afforded others?
Well, I don't want to say that it's a deep, dark secret anymore. It is, they are starting, from what I can see, they are starting to talk about it because so much is happening in the churches and so many people are being exposed. They have no choice but to recognize it and to talk about it. And you can't blame the devil. Mm-hmm. You have to talk about what is going on and what is happening. So it has been my experience that within the last couple of years, people are now trying to understand how to address it. I know that a lot of pastors now are looking more into upping their insurance policies on their churches. Now pastors and elders and anyone who's going to hold a key spot in the church have to go through a background check, mm-hmm. a criminal background check. Mm-hmm. So I say that they are now trying to take it a little more serious because people are now starting to press charges and starting to sue the churches. Okay.
All right. So it is being dealt with.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, I think we have a caller on the line. And caller, I'd like to thank you for calling in. Welcome to Masterpiece Theater. Talk to us.
Yes, I was calling in because I wanted to. Hello?
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay. I wanted to shed light because I know that there wasn't a lot of males calling in on the show. So I wanted to, come forward and speak. I wanted to, say thank you to Raquel because what she's doing is absolutely amazing. And I think that one of the things that for the people that have been molested when they're younger, that they need to feel confident that they can move past, these. I do say the devil because I feel that the devil has to be inside of these people in order for them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know in my experience, I was disowned from my congregation because I came forward, and the pastor of the church said, don't do this, because, as a choir director and as a vocalist, you look at the people that can really sing well, you look at them as somebody that you would like to, to emulate. And so from my experience, I was with the choir director, and, the pastor said, don't do this, you will bring this church down. And for years, I sat there and said, and I still went to the church. And, and I sat there and I looked at this person every single Sunday and was like, how can you sit up there and speak of the Lord? And yet we already know that one of the biggest sins in the Bible is taking the innocence of the children. And so finally, one day I called the pastor and I said, look, I don't care about the church, because if the church doesn't know this, then this is not a church. This is not a show. This is not a collection basket. And so I'm going to be coming forward and speaking to this, and you can make some decisions. Now, they obviously made a decision to go and say that I was crazy and this, that, and the other.
Wow.
But going and I believe like Raquel, like you felt, going to the police department and just writing it down,
right,
it kind of gives you that self-gratification out in of itself. But then you do sit there and you go, okay, well, what's next and what's after this? Because we all know that in this society, with everything that goes on, politically and, stuff like that, that it does not make it as easy for people to come forward. And a lot of youth that come forward, they don't even know what to do,
right,
when they come forward. So I think that it's great that we can have more people like you that can come forward and begin to shed light. And I think that one of the biggest things that I know that I definitely want to be able to address moving forward is how we can make the process easier for them to come forward, because a lot of youth don't come forward because they feel as though nothing's going to happen to the person that did it.
Right.
And that the only thing that's really going to happen is that they're going to get disowned from their family, or that they're going to look upon as being, like a slut, or all these other things that are negative. And so it's just trying to make them feel as though that they will be able to do something. And I know from personal experience, sometimes, giving them that uplifting power and saying that you have to be powerful and just be liberated, sometimes that doesn't do enough. Sometimes some people are so scarred that they need to see that other person in handcuffs and put on trial and put away in jail in order for it to not move forward. So I just wanted to come and share that. And just thank you. God bless you. Obviously, your anointing. I can't wait to read this book. But yes, I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much for calling, and thank you for your courage, and thank you for the fact that you found the courage in yourself to really at some point stand up and say, you know what, I'm not concerned with the building as much as I am concerned with the temple.
Yes.
And we'd like to congratulate you, and you become, in this call, you become an inspiration for others who'll be able to do that.
Yes, Obba, I just wanted to chime in here also that a part of my nonprofit, Young Hearts Desires, one of the things that I do, as well as I go into the churches and I work with the pastoral staff and the leadership team on how to deal with these issues and how to put into place the best practices on how to deal with these issues and when this stuff comes to the forefront. Because a lot of times they don't handle these issues because they don't know how to handle them. They don't know what to do. And so I do that as well.
That's a great point, which leads me to, I was going to say, like, if this program, if you're listening and this program in any way has been something that has spurred something in you and sparked something in you, and you do have, there are places to go. And if it's a younger person that's listening, you can get to an adult that will provide you with assistance. We're going to make sure that you have a means by which you can reach out to Raquel, who comes and speaks. If you need someone to come and speak at your facility, be it your church, be it your school, be it your social organization, be able to because again, at the end of the day, it's still happening.
Yes, it is.
It's still going on.
Yes, it
and it is in itself part of the spiritual warfare.
Yes.
As our caller spoke about it. And we're about making sure that we get to those that really need us. Raquel, before I let you go, I got to let you, just tell you, first of all, what a great inspiration it is to be able to know the kind of work that you're doing.
Thank you.
You have a blog also.
Yes.
That you're working on.
Yes.
Would you share that with us so people can sort of follow you?
Yes, definitely, Obba. I have a video blog on YouTube. It is called Pages of Life. And I basically, it's not a religious-based video blog. It's true to life. I talk about all different kinds of issues, and I like to get feedback from the community on the issues that I'm talking about. I talk about from sex to young teens and their issues, to church stuff, to politics. I talk about it all. But you can follow me on YouTube. It is Pages of Life for Life. So Pages of Life and the number 4 and then the word life.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And, you can send her information there. And if it's something, she'll make sure that she gets the information to us, and we'll try and help here at Masterpiece Theater to also provide you with opportunities of where it is that you can go to deal with this. Listen, I am so excited. I think that this show it's so much. We only scratched the surface today of dealing with this issue, because it is such a large issue, because there's so many people that when I talked about the fact that we were going to be doing this show said, oh my God, I am so glad that someone is talking about that. Yes. And I want to thank my callers today who had the courage to call in. Those who are listening right now and you're dealing with that inside of you, know that you are not alone, that you don't stand alone, and that as painful as it may be, the liberation of releasing yourself, forgiving yourself, and moving forward is absolutely something that you are deserving of, because it does not matter how it took place. I always say abuse is never okay. Never okay. And it's not just sexual abuse, it's mental abuse. And listen, if someone's listening and they're saying, well, the person never touched me, but the way they speak to me all the time makes me feel uncomfortable as a child. Or the voyeurism, where someone is always looking at me every time I want to take my clothes off, and I feel uncomfortable with that. Or whatever the circumstance and case is. And I also want to speak to those who may be an abuser.
Yes.
I want to say to you that if there's an illness or there's something that you're wrestling with, please go and get help.
Yes.
Because it only can turn out bad for you and for someone else. I am thrilled that I have the opportunity. I thank you for my listeners for supporting the show Masterpiece Theater. We continue to try and open our hearts and minds, and we continue to try to enlighten, educate, entertain, inform, and give some sense of hope. My name is Obba Babatunde, and as you know, I always say, in life, as you do anything is how you do everything. I thank you so much for tuning in. God bless each and every one of you, and we'll see you right here again next Tuesday, live on Masterpiece Theater. Peace. Masterpiece Theater is brought to you by Roscoe's Media Center, sponsored by Roscoe's House of Chicken and Waffles, the makers of Pitbull Energy Drink. The show is engineered by Poetess, written by Obba Babatunde and Kennedy Goldsby, and produced by Paul Goldsby, executive producer, The Good Herb.